Hey yo, power fighters! I'm coming at you today with what I think was an underappreciated re-release late last year for what is already an underappreciated game. I'm talking about SvC Chaos. Now, a lot of people know this game was completely overshadowed by Capcom versus SNK. Or maybe you heard something bad from the competitive crowd. However, I have a very soft spot for SvC. It gave us Violent Ken with a rockin' fluffy afro and some of the most salt-inducing, ass-chapping bosses in an arcade mode. Now, thinking back to Thanksgiving 2004, my father took me to the game store. A rare occurrence when it's not your birthday or Christmas. I was given free reign on any 2 games I wanted, and I ended up with 2 games for the original Xbox, those being Halo 2 and SvC Chaos. Now, even though I had the entire store at my behest, the box art for SvC simply called to me, because I've always loved fighting games, even those really janky X-Men Academy games. But I, like many people, never quite grew out of playing fighting games as if I was still playing Street Fighter 2. It wasn't until Street Fighter 5 where I really started to learn a little bit, and still it wasn't until Street Fighter 6 where I actually started to improve. And even now I'm not that great. The point is, however, most of my fighting game history is built on button mashing against my friends, or enjoying arcade runs with every character, just to see all those different endings. I also had no local fighting game community. But games like SvC here started going online. Now, if you were alive back then, you know the online for fighting games in the early 2000s was total butt cheeks. So I was not concerned with what the competitive scene thought of this game. I'm the kind of weirdo whose favorite Soul Calibur is Soul Calibur 3, and favorite Mortal Kombat is Deception. What kept me hooked on fighting games are the kick-ass characters. To me, they're some of the best, most well-designed characters on the planet. And SvC, it's got a killer roster. The chaotic mix, pun intended, might not be everyone's cup of tea, but that's what makes this game stand out. You got the waifu Shiki from Samurai Showdown, classic Street Fighter picks like my main man Guile, and even Mars people from Metal Slug. And hey, Mega Man Zero. Not my favorite version of Zero, but hey, it's still pretty cool. You could say I have zero complaints about the roster. Flash forward 20 years later, how do I feel about SvC now? Well, there's an elephant in the room to address. This is a port based on the original arcade release, and that means it's missing survival mode and the cool color editor. But we do have some additions. The full roster, rollback netcode, online lobbies, a gallery featuring all of the wicked artwork by Nona, and even an option to make hitboxes visible. The heart of the game, though, is its arcade mode. You get unique pre-fight intros for the entire roster, something that would eventually be popularized in the Mortal Kombat series. Plus, you've got 2 final hidden bosses to beat for the true endings for your characters. With 36 characters to choose from, that's a hell of a lot of arcade mode to sink your teeth into. So, how do I feel it plays now? The first thing that was immediately apparent was how different the Capcom characters play. They feel more like SNK characters, which makes sense given that the reverse is true in CVS2. The pace is fast, the input timing is tight, and I mostly had to rely on fundamentals, which is fine considering the majority of your time spent in SvC will be against the cheesy CPU from hell. I only managed to find 1 person playing online, and with that in mind, there's not so much incentive to dig deep unless you're really curious about what's going on under the hood. The game uses the typical best of 3 rounds, but with a twist. you've got 2 life bars, making each round feel a bit longer. There's also a guard meter that depletes while you block and refills when you don't. The game features a bunch of different movement and defensive mechanics, a lot of which are influenced from KOF, along with your typical SNK 4-button control scheme. You have recovery rolls, forward and back dashes, super jumps, guard cancel attacks, guard cancel dashes. There's also maximum mode, allowing you to cancel moves that would usually be non-cancelable once your super meter hits level 3. You also have exceed moves, unique super moves that don't need any meter, but can only be used once per match, not per round. Save it for when you want to exceed expectations. See what I did there? Anyway, the big gripe with SvC, from what I hear, is its inconsistent hitboxes. But to be frank, it's not really something that caught my eye as I'm playing through the arcade mode. Let's be real though, the real issue here, particularly with this re-release, unless you're connecting through Discord, is finding a match. The online was pretty much dead on arrival, and months later I can't imagine you're gonna be finding any matches. One last gameplay aspect worth mentioning is the roster balance. Another element that was criticized. But have you played MVC2? At that time, it was not uncommon for some characters to dominate, or even get banned in tournaments. Roster imbalance is not unique to SvC. Okay, some characters here are undeniably OP, so if you're looking for an easier time in arcade mode, pick Athena. She's a god. Talk about divine intervention. Visually, the game still holds up pretty well. It's running on an old KOF engine. Old even for its time. Despite this, the character sprites look phenomenal, and I think they speak for themselves here. Hot damn, they look good, especially on the Capcom side, and they animate really well. The game is a bit rough around the edges, but the sprite work really shines. The stages, on the other hand, not so much. They're a bit bland, especially when compared to older KOF titles. They don't have that much life to them. There's not much going on in the background, for instance, and honestly, I wish they had something more dynamic, like the Rainy Park stage from KOF 99. But hey, the stages do match the gritty tone of the game. The sound design and music fit too. It's got a distinct sound and a sharp edge to it. I love the simple little track that sets up each fight, making each one feel like a boss encounter. As a 16-year-old during the time of the original release, I ate it all up. Now I still appreciate the 90s/early 2000s edge. The execution here, however, feels a bit more mixed than I remember. The dialogue is far from Shakespeare, and some of the translations can be a bit goofy. As I said though, the stages do match the gritty tone that everything in the game seems to embody. I now see SvC Chaos more like a quirky novelty than something you'll want to sink a lot of time into, especially since the online was dead on arrival. You might actually be better off with the old Xbox version, where you'll get more single-player content. My take has drastically shifted.
Drastically go down!
Shifted more towards what the general consensus was back in the day, minus the hate for the wild roster, which I will defend. If you didn't like SvC back then, nothing here is going to change your mind. But if, like me, you have some nostalgia for it, and simply love these characters as much as I do, it's worth revisiting for old time's sake. If you've never played it and you're still in your button mashing phase, give it a shot when it's on sale and prepare to go nuts as you submerge yourself in a mountain of salt, trying to cheese out Go Nuts and his damn tornadoes. It's SNK versus Capcom, and it's pure, unfiltered
chaos.